Hello Year 4, welcome to today's English session. In today's session we're going to be continuing looking at apostrophes for possession, really trying to understand in a bit more depth the difference between singular and plural apostrophes for possession. And to be successful in this lesson, again as the same as yesterday, you will be able to identify where the possessive apostrophes should be used in a sentence. You will also be able to use possessive apostrophes in your own writing, and you will be able to indicate the possession by using the possessive apostrophe, including plural and singular possessive apostrophes. Okay, let's have a bit of a retrieval from yesterday then. So I want you to read the following sentences. Look for the apostrophe showing possession. Look about whether it's showing an apostrophe for singular or plural possession, and which of these sentences actually uses the apostrophe correctly. Think about whether or not it's just one of those nouns and where the apostrophe should be, or if it's more than one of those nouns and if that's correct. Okay, so pause the video. I want you to just have a think. One of these sentences is correct, two are incorrect. Can you find the incorrect sentences and actually maybe correct them too? Pause the video and have a think. Okay, so if we have a look at the first example, the tree frog loved to eat the juicy crickets. Now, crickets has the apostrophe. Is this a singular apostrophe for possession or plural? That's right, it's a singular apostrophe for possession. It's only suggesting that there is one cricket. That's brilliant, but what exactly does the cricket have possession over? Nothing. So does cricket need an apostrophe? No, it doesn't. Let's look at number 2 then. So that one was incorrect. Number 2, the villagers didn't like what was happening. Now here we've got an apostrophe next to villagers. Does this apostrophe show a singular or plural apostrophe for possession? That's right, it shows a plural apostrophe for possession, suggesting that there is more than one villager. But again, what do the villagers have possession over? Nothing. It's just the villagers. They don't actually need an apostrophe. Finally then, Lila's little brother was frightened of the loud noises from the axe. Who has got the apostrophe? Lila has. Is this a singular or plural possession? That's right, it's a singular. It's just one Lila, and what does she own? What does she have possession of? That's right, her little brother. That belongs to her. That's her family. So that is correct. So that is our correct sentence. And well done if you identified that. And extra well done if you remembered why the other two were incorrect and maybe you corrected them too. So just recapping from yesterday then, an apostrophe is the same shape as a comma, but it's placed above the line. So apostrophes show two things, that something belongs to one another, like a possession, and it also shows those contractions of words such as don't, which came from do not. And like yesterday, we're going to really focus on apostrophes for possession. Can you remember the difference between singular apostrophes for possession and plural apostrophes for possession? I wonder. Let's have a quick recap. So we could have the possessive apostrophe, which is a singular possession. So this shows that we can add the apostrophe S to a noun if there is just one noun. So it's just one tree here. The tree's branches, the village's home. And we went through this yesterday, where it was just one of the nouns. And if the noun already exists if the noun already ends in an S, we could identify this as being a plural possessive apostrophe, in which we need to add an apostrophe after the S. So if we had multiple trees, multiple villagers, multiple spiders, multiple grandfathers, more than one, our noun already ends in an S because it's a plural noun, like we identified yesterday with our plural nouns. Now that means that we need to add an apostrophe to the end of that noun to suggest that it's more than one tree, the trees, but they still have possession over the branches. It's more than one villager, but they are all angry. It's more than one spider, but they all have webs. It's more than one grandfather, and they are having a gathering. Let's have a look at the plural possessive in a bit more detail. So we know that apostrophes can be used to show when something belongs to someone or something, and this is known as having a possession over something. Have a think. What do you own? What do you have possession over? Pause the video and have a think. You might have thought of lots of things that you own. You might own a pencil case, for example. You might own some clothes. You might own some jewellery. You might own some toys. And when we're thinking about more than one thing, this is called plural, like we learned yesterday. So if we had a pack of wolves or a group of countries, this is more than one thing. So we know that we need to end this noun with an apostrophe after the S. For example, the wolves' prey was a deer. Wolves, there is more than one, there is not just one wolf, but because there is more than one and they own the prey, they have possession over the prey, then we need to add the possessive apostrophe after. And let's look at some more examples, because it's really important that we think about the spelling of some of these plural nouns as well, when they change from nouns to plural nouns, showing possession. So we can see here the boys' fancy dress costumes attracted a lot of attention. There's two boys, so there's more than one, and they own the fancy dress costumes. So it would be a plural apostrophe for possession. Similarly here, the loaves' glaze is shiny. There's lots of loaves here. There's two loaves. They are huge loaves and they have a glaze to them. A glaze, what do you think a glaze is? That's right, a glaze is like a coating which is quite shiny and it makes them really appealing to eat. I don't know about you, but it's made me really hungry now. And we can see that because there's multiple loaves and they all own, they have possession over the glaze, then the apostrophe must go after the loaves. Now ponies is quite different because here we have two ponies, so it's multiple, and they have possession over the diet. But when we write pony out normally, how do we spell that? That's right, we spell it P-O-N-Y for one pony. But we can see here that when we have a plural noun, sometimes the spelling changes, and it's really important to look out for that. And we can see two more examples here, and look, one of our key words. Two of the Cascade volcanoes summits are visible in this photo. So the volcanoes, two of them, they have summits, they own them, okay? Now we need to look out for the fact that some plural nouns don't always end in S. So we have children, that suggests there's more than one child, and people, that suggests there's more than one person. And to make these nouns possessive, you add an apostrophe and an S. So for example, children's and people's. So sometimes the rule doesn't always apply, that we have to add an apostrophe after the S if it's a plural apostrophe for possession. But most of the time it does, just for those common exception words like children, people, and some others too. Now let's look at some examples here of sentences and try and have a go at inserting the apostrophe for possession in the correct place. So we've got the sentence here, the sun's beams streamed through the canopy. Oh, doesn't that sound delightful? The sun's beams streamed through the canopy. What noun has possession here? So we can see that we've got some nouns here. We've got sun, suns, beams, canopy. Which of these nouns has possession? Well, I know that sun, well, the sun could own the beams. The beams, could it own the streamed? No, it couldn't. So the beams don't own anything. And the canopy, does that own anything? Does that have possession? No, it doesn't, does it? So the sun has possession over the beams. It's the sun's beams. So we now know that we need to add an apostrophe somewhere in the word suns. But we don't know if it's a singular or plural apostrophe for possession. Is there one sun, or is there two suns, or three, or four? That's right, there's just one sun, isn't there? So it's a singular possession because there's just one sun. So that means that our apostrophe should go before the S or after the S. That's right, it should go before the S because there's just one sun and it owns the beams. Super job. I would like you to have a go at reading the sentence, identifying where your noun is and where the apostrophe goes. So pause the video, have a think, write the sentence out and insert the apostrophe. Okay, how did you do? Oh gosh, year 4. I think I am speaking far too fast for what I can manage at the moment because I am choking on myself far much more than I need to. Let's try again. So, the flower's fragrances, sounds a bit like a alliteration there, tongue twister, smelled like perfume. So we're thinking, what has ownership? What has possession over something else? Well, the flower is a noun, the fragrance is a noun, the perfume is a noun. Does the word perfume, does perfume own anything? No, we could say perfume has a smell, but we don't say the perfume smell, it smells like perfume. So that isn't our word that needs an apostrophe. How about fragrances? So the fragrances smelled. Well, yeah, the fragrances smelled, but we haven't said the fragrances smell. If we're saying the fragrances smell, that's suggesting that the smell belongs to the fragrances, but we've got that ed suffix suggesting that's a verb. So actually, fragrances don't own anything. But the noun flowers has possession over the fragrances because it's the fragrance coming from the flower's fragrance. So we know the word flowers needs an apostrophe, but where's it going to go? Well, we know that it's either going to go before the S or after the S, but is there more than one flower? Does it say the 5 flowers fragrances or the group of flowers fragrances? No, it doesn't, does it? So it suggests that there is just one flower. So it's a singular apostrophe needed. So is that apostrophe going to go before the S or after the S? Absolutely, before the S. Fantastic work. Now your job today is to read the following sentences 1 to 8. Do exactly what we've just done there. Identify whether they need an apostrophe for possession and add it in if they do. A little bit of a tip here, year 4. Not all of these sentences need an apostrophe. You need to read them, and if you find your noun that ends in S, you've got to think, do they have possession over everything? And if they don't, you can leave it, move on to number 2 or number 3 or number 4 or even number 5. But if they do own something, that's where you need to put your apostrophe in. Okay? For example, number 6 here, the animals pleaded with the man whilst he slept. Do the animals own pleaded? What is pleaded? Pleaded is a verb, isn't it? It's that past tense verb. We can see the ed suffix on it. So the animals don't actually own anything. So I've given you a clue there. Number 6, you won't need to change anything. Some of them you won't need to change anything, but you need to look out for them. Have a think as well. I want you to extend your brain. If they do need an apostrophe, what is the object that they own? I wonder if you can write that there too. Task number 2, have a look at each list of nouns. So the list goes from left to right like this. So you've got cars, 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 cars. You'd read those nouns, circle the correct plural possessive noun in each list. What does a plural possessive noun look like? I've given you a clue here with my example. I've got teachers, 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 and teachers. Now, which version is correct? Well, I know it's this one because I know when we have a plural possessive noun, we put our apostrophe after the S to show there is more than one teacher. Then what you're going to do, you're going to choose 3 of the nouns. So you might choose cars, chickens, pizzas, and trees. Or you might choose clocks, pizzas, chickens, and trees, for example. You're going to write 3 sentences, including this plural possessive noun. Remembering that you are actually stating that if you're writing about the teachers, that it's the more than one teacher, okay? So it's the group of teachers maybe. The group of teachers' lunchboxes were very filled today, for example. So you've said there's lots of teachers, they owned the lunchbox. Remember though, with that, not only are you identifying that it's a plural possessive noun by adding the apostrophe after the S, but you're also identifying the fact that they own something, because that's what makes it a possessive apostrophe. Final task for today. Can you identify the difference between a singular and plural possessive noun? And can you give an example of each? Pause the video and have a think. Okay, how did you do? Did you remember that a singular possessive noun is when it's just one person, place, or thing that owns something else and has possession over it? So you add apostrophe S. Whereas plural possessive nouns show more than one person, place, or thing that owns something else. So you add apostrophe after the S. Can you give an example of each? Maybe you might have said the cat's bowl. The bowl belongs to the cat, but there's just one cat. So that's a singular possessive apostrophe needed. Whereas this one, the chicken's pen. There might be more than one chicken having the pen that belongs to them. So that means we need the apostrophe after the noun. Really excited to see your learning today. Have a lovely day. Bye, Year 4.